and we'll move on with our agenda. The agenda is before us. If anyone have any additions to the agenda, otherwise I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Bruce?
Second.
Davy, second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, thank you. Some action items. Ashley, we've got a couple contracts to present. Oh, good, you're right there.
Yep,
Thank
I'm
you.
here. Good evening, Vice Chair Schindler, Superintendent Wagner, School Board Directors. This evening, we present to the board consideration for approval with two master agreements. Detailed information on both contracts were sent on Friday for review, and as discussed during closed session regarding negotiations. So the first master agreement for your consideration of approval is for the technical staff unit. This unit consists of 2 employees and is a 2-year agreement for the 2023-2025 school years.
A comment, but should I wait till we are in discussion, or should I just go ahead? This one I'm planning to vote no on, and I just wanted to explain why. Same reason as with the teacher contract, I'm just concerned about the rate of our spending is surpassing our rate of income. And I know this is a small group, but consistent with my previous vote on the teacher contract, I'm planning to vote no on this one.
So moved.
Bruce? Second.
One second.
Aye. Oh, I yield. Now I'll ask for any other questions or comments about the agreement. I just have one, this is a clarification for me. The early out, is that because it's such a small group? There's an early out provision in that contract.
Sure. So, again, that flexibility and giving that employees 30 minutes leeway for the early out, I think you're referring to on the Fridays. Yep, so that is very consistent with other bargaining units, as well as our support staff, executive admin group as well, that they do have that flexibility for a 30-minute early out on Fridays. Yep. Yes. Yep. Yep. And I do add too, if I can, if there is a duty that needs to be taken care of or something in their role that the district does have that right, then we ask them to stay until that's completed. Yep. Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments about the technical employees agreement?
Hey, Gary?
Yes.
I just want to make again, a similar comment to what I made when we worked on our other contracts about our future financial situation for the school district and for the city and for just all of our taxpayers, that we seem to be very far ahead of the kind of monies that we're receiving from the state. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that, so that we got to do one of two things. We either got to make cuts, we got to find ways to bring more tax money in, and that's, again, my concerns. That's it.
And any other questions, comments? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, that contract does pass. All right, Ashley, the next group, Administrative Association.
Sure. So the second master agreement for consideration for approval is with the administrative group. This does consist of 9 employees, and again, this is a 2-year agreement for the unit, 23 to 25 school years.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve that agreement. All right, Neil, second by Davy. Any questions, comments concerning the Administrative Association Master Agreement?
Yeah, this one in particular, in response to the concern about settling contracts that reflect more money than we are taking in. I'm not so sure that we are spending significantly more than what we are taking in. And with this one in particular, the settlement reflects the going rate for that particular group of workers. And if we do not remain competitive for our workers, we will end up not being able to hire anybody or not keeping people, and we want to keep quality people here. So in this instance, I think probably that would be the main reason that I'd be in favor of this, because we need to remain competitive.
Any other questions? Angie?
Uh,
You presented, 4 scenarios at the last school board meeting. This is the lowest of the 4, is that correct? Total package?
I don't have that specific information in front of me, but I can get that for you. It is one of the options as discussed.
Yeah, Director Olson, this was the one that we spoke to and had an agreement on, yes. Yes.
Angie?
Yes, I was going to say, this one also has a high level of spending, which does concern me, but I am voting in favor of it for the reason that Neil mentioned, that this group had a good argument that they were behind and we need to catch them up so that we're competitive. So that's my comment.
I appreciate that. I'd share both of your opinion. I don't want to be last in any way, but especially with those leadership positions. Any other questions or comments? Dave? No?
Good to go?
Okay. All in favor of approving the Administrative Association Master Agreement, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, very good, thank you. Thanks for your good work on everybody's part to get us to this point. Appreciate it, Ashley.
Yep.
Okay, next, Paul has a presentation of letters concerning bids.
All right, is the mic still on here?
I think you're good.
All right, directors, Superintendent Wagner, thanks for having me again this evening. Also the directors virtually joining us, good to see you on the screen there. You should all have a letter of recommendation in front of you in a packet. Dave and Kim, were you able to get the copy of this document prior to the meeting this evening?
Yeah.
Okay.
Paul, I didn't, I'm seeing it now and it looks fine, thank you.
Okay, so we received our bids for our mechanical projects, which we've been keeping you updated on the process along the way on Friday last week. And after the bids come in, our engineers go back and have conversations with each firm and make sure that they're comfortable with the bid, make sure they didn't miss anything. They review the bids, make sure that they're strong and obviously going to be following through with their commitment. And today we received a letter of recommendation from our engineering firm. So it wasn't in the bid packet prior to the weekend, but supplementing that with the document here tonight. So we can go through some of the numbers of what we saw from the bid, and it was a positive result that we saw on Friday. So what I did was put it together in a graphic here in the slides that Darcy has up on the screens this evening. So essentially, one of the 3 portions of the project. So we asked the bids to come into 3 separate bids for a few different reasons. One of the 3 bids came in slightly higher, and the 2 others came in well under what our budgeted pre-bid amounts were. So that was good news. And what this graphic on the screen shows is the top 3 lines are the components, the mechanical portion of the project, which we're utilizing ISG Inc., our engineering firm, to guide and run that portion of the project. Highlighted in green there is the maintenance room building envelope repair that's needed, and we're going to operate with our roofing company, Tremco, to complete that portion of the project. And then in red is we legally have to do the asbestos abatement for the old boilers separate from the engineering portion of the project. So IEA, who is our consultant for a lot of safety projects, is going to take the lead on that project. And so you see the totals came almost 800,000 below our projected budget. So that was really good news to see that. And we did have fewer bidders on the project. So the one bid that came in higher than expected, ISG still felt good about the amount, considering the others came in under. And the contractor there, New Line Mechanical, that came in on that high bid was actually the contractor that put in our last HVAC system at Southwest Middle School. So they're very familiar with the plumbing and the mechanicals that are currently in place there. So I guess this evening, we're asking for the board to approve New Line Mechanical to do the boiler replacement at Southwest Middle School, JF Aaron's to do the Lakeview Elementary boilers, and to do the pool dehumidification unit, and JF Aaron's again to do the pool dehumidification unit and boiler replacement at Albert Lee High School. Those are the top three, or the low three bidders.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve those as a block.
So moved.
All right, very good. Any questions or comments?
Hey, Paul?
Yep. Dave?
Yeah, can you hear a couple of questions for you? What's the timeframe on completing all of these projects? And will this be the final pricing, so regardless of the amount of time it takes, we're good to go then on all the bids?
I'll try and answer that question in a couple portions. So let's start with the timeline. So Southwest Middle School and Lakeview Elementary boiler replacements will begin as soon as we can get the boilers demoed and removed. So when heat comes off this spring, IEA will come in and do the asbestos abatement and demolition of the boilers, and the contractors have agreed to start the process this spring and hopefully have those concluded over the summer. The pool dehumidification unit at Albert Lee High School, because there's a very large lead time for the dehumidification units, we're not comfortable enough to do that this summer. That project will be completed next summer, but the bid is locked at the amount that JF Aaron's came in with. So that price won't go up from their bid amount. Essentially, the three bids that you're approving this evening are locked in at their bid prices. They're committed to that bid amount. Unless there's significant change orders through the process that we work through with our engineering firm, they are committed to the project at that rate. So the timeline, the fact that we're doing the project next summer should not change the price, no, for that later portion. Yep.
Go ahead. Dave?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
I just have just a question about process. I noticed there was one or two bids for the different projects. Is that typical that we see? Not much more than one or two bids? Okay.
So we had a lot of contractors come through and look at the project and collect the bid packets. Not as many submitted a formal bid. In completion, we were actually surprised. Part of the logic in splitting it into three portions instead of one larger project was try to keep it open to our smaller local contractors to have a chance to bid on the project, and we were really committed to have that as part of the process. JF Aaron's is out of Rochester, and New Line Mechanical, I believe, is out of Austin, so local contractors, somewhat local.
And just to update the board also, in the Friday update, we spoke to, last Friday we met with Moody's, a grading system for our bond cells. So we're hoping to hear back next week around what that grade will be, and then move forward with the bond cells, will then lead into the project. So that will all come before the board as well.
Very good.
And correction, New Line Mechanical is out of Byron, so my mistake on that. With Superintendent Wagner's comment, I do want to clarify there too that we are significantly looking at under budget, and so Ellers, our financial advisors, will give us advice on what the best route of action there is. The funds that we're receiving from the bond sales do still go towards our LTFM funds, or to our LTFM projects, so we could use those funds right now towards other mechanical projects, or we could sell less bonds. They'll give us a recommendation. At that time, it would just I mean, essentially, we would have more cash in our LTFM each year for the 15-year span. So do we go out to sell less bonds, or do we take the bond sale at the full amount that was approved? And we'll come back for that recommendation on the 20th, this February 20th board meeting.
Very good, Paul, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of our mechanical project bid, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, good, opposed? All right, that passes. Paul, thank you very much for your good work.
Thank you.
Yep. Now we'll move into study session. I did ask personally for this one. I think at least I was one of the people that asked. We made a commitment to hire another resource officer, and I thought the timing was right since we're about halfway through the school year, and we've made a major commitment in operations to have a second officer. I think it would be good for us just to get an update from both of these gentlemen. So I'll call you up. I don't know, Adam, if you're the spokesperson or, okay, good.
Vice Chair, as they're coming up,
That's good.
I do want to acknowledge our continued partnership with the city of Albert Lee and the amazing work that Officer Khan and Officer David Hughes is coming in to continue that in a different part of the city. So both in tandem have been, not only been down on the football field and supporting our youth during football games and cheering our squads on, but have been very present out in the community and in our schools. So I greatly appreciate the partnership.
So I'll give you the floor. I'll just tell you my intention is, what I'm curious to hear about is just how have you organized the efforts between the two of you? And then what have you seen, Adam, a difference between last couple years and this year that we have
Yep,
additional staff?
so this happened this summer. I had a discussion with my supervisor along with Mr. Hughes, how we were going to attack which schools SRO should take. And we kind of looked at it as the demographics of the schools were pretty dominant. We have 4 on the south, 4 on the north. So one of the issues I ran into when I was the single SRO, I spent a lot of time driving to and from schools because of one area of town to the next area of town. So what we looked at is if we could assign the 4 out, and with him being out of Southwest, he would have the 4 south, I would take the 4 north to eliminate the response time. We'd be able to respond quicker. That way, if I don't have to come from the north, I'll wait to the south. That way he can deal. So we separated them out. He takes Sibley, Southwest, Halverson, and Lakeview. Then I got Brookside, the ALC, the high school, and Hawthorne. So, and it's vice versa. He's busy. I'll go to the other schools if they need somebody down there. So, like I said, it's been a good thing. With him being in Southwest, I can speak for myself, being in the schools for 3 years. When I first came in, I was post-COVID, so it was a lot going on with the students, trying to keep them in the classrooms. And that was a task for myself because I was getting calls for Southwest, and then I'm getting calls for ALC, I'm getting calls for the high school, and everybody needs me, but I can go to only one spot, so it's a priority thing, so I had to prioritize. So with him bringing him into Southwest, he's able to get into the halls at Southwest and deal with those issues that arise at Southwest, which I can say has driven down what I had seen there the first 2 years being there. And we had a lot of fights in the first 2 years within Southwest, which I attribute to with him being in the school now. They know he's in the school, he's in the hallways, he's helping their admin team, so the kids know he's there, and he's a resource now that they can come to and talk to if they have issues. And that's the main thing is building those relationships with the students so they know they have somebody to come talk to. And that's what I've been able to establish in the high school. I got a lot of kids that come tell me information now. They're more comfortable coming to me. They come down and tell me so-and-so had this, so-and-so has this. It's something I can follow up on. And that's kind of goes hand in hand with, it's tough to dedicate a lot of time to certain schools because the high school in itself is busy. So, but the ALC, I get there, if she calls, I respond as needed. Same kind of thing with Hawthorne, she'll call me on the phone. A lot of times I can resolve issues through the phone. I don't have to come to the school. Same thing with Officer Hughes. He's got a little more of a challenge. He's got Lakeview School there where he's been responding quite a few times with Lakeview, with the level 3 students there. So he's there quite a bit. He can speak for himself on that, but I have assisted him with Lakeview. But a lot of what we're seeing is, I don't think the fights aren't as prevalent as we've had in the past. You know, they're getting driven down. Yeah, we have, I'm not gonna say we don't have any, but we do have fights. And a lot of it's driven by social media, the handheld device in their hand. Friends that, no longer friends, so then they get on social media and the war on words starts through social media, and before we know it, we have a fight. And, you know, that's mainly what we're seeing with the fighting. It's driven through social media. We're still seeing the vaping. The state of Minnesota did not help out with the legalization of marijuana. When we first, before it was illegal, we weren't seeing the marijuana usage as high within the high school. When it got legalized, now I'm not seeing as much nicotine, we're seeing more marijuana. So it's more accessible for our youth to get their hands on, and they're bringing that in and they're experimenting with it. So we try to stay ahead of it. We can get what we can get. You know, the bathrooms are kind of a hot spot, so we catch them. And you know, it's one of them things. It's kind of like when I kind of attribute to when I worked the street. You're never gonna get ahead of it. Drugs is a monster of itself. You just try to stay within the game and try and get what you can get, type of thing. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would just like to say, my time at Southwest, I spend the majority of my time out there, and just in this short year so far being out there, just building the connections with students has done great wonders. I had a student come up to me and they were like, oh man, you know, I was terrified to talk to cops until I met you, because, I mean, let's face it, nobody calls the cops when they're having a bad day, when they're having a good day. We only come when they're having a bad day. But just being out there, especially during lunchroom, walking the halls, you get that positive interaction with them. Also, I am seeing some of the vaping and stuff not as prevalent as the high school, but it is in Southwest, which, you know, they're a young age. The ones I talk to, I try and go out of my way to get them information or find the reason why they're vaping. A lot of the times there is a reason behind it, and I just try and understand what that is. That way they're not addicted to the substance anymore, and just kind of get more of a positive interaction with them. That way when they go to the high school, you're not going to have the fights or anything like that as much. However, like Officer Khan was saying, the social media aspect of it, that's where most of these issues arise from. Obviously, we can't take social media out of schools or anything like that. It's one of the pieces I try and educate them on, that social media is here to stay, and it's just how do we combat that? How do we live through it? Some of the other schools that I've been to, I'd say Lakeview is probably the more prevalent one I get called to, mainly for behavior issues with just little fellas. My best thing I've had working there is just when I go there, just try and talk to them, figure out what's going on. I'm a big proponent in trying to de-escalate using verbal tactics to understand what is driving their root problem, why are they so upset. And I've had great success with that, to the point where, you know, there was a student who was having issues at Southwest and screaming and hollering, and probably within 30, 40 seconds, he was calmed down in a room, and a joke was made that, well, if this cop life doesn't work out, the school had hired me as a social worker or a kid whisperer. So it's good having the positive interactions with them, especially like Officer Khan was saying, out in the halls, just getting the good interaction with the kiddos and trying to limit any negative behavior going forward. Obviously, we still do have some fights at Southwest, but I talk with Officer Khan quite a bit, and it sounds like the fights are way lower than what they were before. Like last year, they were up pretty high. But I think just having another officer in there, because now they know that there's another officer there. If I'm gone for the day, if I take sick or vacation, the students know, and they're like, oh, where were you? I mean, I always make the joke I was stuffed in a locker and couldn't get out, but it's been really good working out there, and I think I've made some good connections out there.
I have a couple of questions if I can jump in. Sorry, no. Well, first of all, I'm so happy that I was worried that you were going to announce that we're losing one of you guys, so I'm really happy that's not the case. I was just curious, how has it been with the state laws that you can't touch students? Is that correct? How is that?
Yeah,
been?
so that's currently still, well, it's kind of a touchy area, because we have Allison has come out and said that there's no change. and that you can operate as we were in the past. But kind of in the cop world is nobody wants to be the first one to set the example. And, because there's some issues there that, you know, yeah, they say that, but are they gonna come back and say, oh, you couldn't have done that? Type of thing, and that's kind of where we're looking for clarification. So, you know, we're kind of operating on it, we're not gonna go hands-on if we don't have to. We'll use we'll de-escalate the situation, and if it comes to that point, we'll call for assistance for another officer to come in. And type of thing is, we're not willing to risk kind of, you know, our career over something that doesn't have to be type of thing. So if we can operate that way, and it's supposed to come, I spoke with Dornick here, it's supposed to come up again for clarifications and so they have every intention of bringing it up for clarification. And once we get the clarification, I don't think there'll be any issues, you know, moving forward. And I can say in the 3 years I've been in there, I've only had to go hands-on with one student. You know, it doesn't happen very often. You know, it's de-escalation works very well with these students. They usually know if an officer's coming around, it's to the point where we need to knock off what we're doing, type of thing, because they've reached that level. And so they know right away that, hey, it's time to, usually when I show up, they're already making their way for the office because they know that that's where they're headed, so.
Okay. And then just one other quick question. I wasn't going to ask this. We had talked before the meeting briefly about how students are able to implement self-defense without, you know, getting in trouble. And I was just wondering if, for the public record, if you could just comment how that works.
Yep, so there's some guidelines for self-defense. You know, if there's an opportunity to get yourself out of this situation, you have to take that opportunity. So like I say, if there's no opportunity to get out and you're stuck kind of cornered, yeah, you can defend yourself to a certain degree to get yourself out of that situation. Where we run into problems is two people head-to-head, neither one of them want to give ground. And yeah, so one will throw the first punch, but the other one will throw, and they'll both throw punches continually on each other. You know, and that's where we look at it is from state statute point of it, and, you know, disorderly conduct's very vague. You know, it says fighting, brawling in public. You know, you're in a public setting, you're fighting, you know, it meets the statute for disorderly conduct. Unless, you know, I look at it, you know, the cameras are great. I want to thank you guys for putting more cameras in the schools. They've been worked out very well for myself and Officer Hughes. We don't have a lot of dead spaces in the school where the kids can get away with anything. You know, so they know they're there, but they're still willing to take that chance. You know, that. And I always ask the kids, well, you know, why are we fighting? It's either one of two reasons. Something happened on the outside in school, and they know they can get that individual in the school because they all got to go to school, or it's social media. You know, it's deriving from the social media side of it. And I always tell them there's hundreds of adults in the school you can go to talk to before it rises to this level. You know, we can bring you down and figure it out. But, you know, they don't, their world is, you know, I don't want to be a snitch. You know, and they don't want to come say anything. You know, and it's getting past that stigma of that to know that, hey, if you come down, you're not a snitch, you're just doing the right thing, you know, to avoid a bad situation. So that, you know, that's the big thing of it is, you know, it's case by case. You know, we look at them case by case. If we feel that there's a self-defense there, that we're not going to charge that student. You know, I had one a couple weeks ago where that was the case. You know, he had nowhere to go but defend himself. You know, and like I said, just because Officer Hughes and I charge somebody with a crime doesn't mean when it gets to the county attorney level that that's going to stick. They could look at it and be like, you know, maybe with this charge it doesn't fit and it's this one, or they can amend the charge or whatever they want to do. It's just an initial charge is basically what it is for them to look at the incident.
All right, Angie, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Jerry, one quick comment.
Yes, Dave.
Excellent, David. Thank you for your great leadership there. I know you had your old Ted to point in the right direction.
All right.
But I appreciate you guys' proactive approach because as crazy as things are and probably will continue, I think proactiveness you guys are doing is the only way to really stay on top of things, and I really appreciate that. I wish we had more of you, but I do appreciate the two of you now, and I appreciate when you sat up too. So thanks, guys, for all you do.
I appreciate it.
Very good. Yeah, Davey.
So I just, regarding you said like the nicotine has gone down, but marijuana's gone up. What is like a good course of action to kind of avoid that? Is I was thinking, with paraphernalia, maybe like metal detectors or bag searches or something like that.
Yep, so that, funny you bring up the metal detectors, that's how we find 90% of them. So we have handheld metal detectors. The kids are hiding them on their person. We get word of them that they have something, we run it over them, it'll hit on it where they're hiding it. So we find them that way. The best, yeah, it's tough to say how to approach it. Right now, with the state did the marijuana statutes, it's a petty misdemeanor right now for somebody under the age of 21 to possess marijuana. And they took the side out of it for small amounts, so that no longer exists. Because now they legalize it, anybody can have it, as long as it's in the prescribed bottle, right? So now, and that's one of the issues I struggle with when the state legislature did this. They didn't deal with the paraphernalia side of it. So right now, if a student would have paraphernalia in the school, it's not a crime. It's more of a school issue. They could have the paraphernalia, and it would not be violating any state statute. They only addressed the underage 21 portion of them possessing the marijuana. And that's something I've been kind of working with the city to maybe take an approach. Maybe we get a city ordinance in there where they can't, somebody under 21 can't possess the paraphernalia piece. So then it gives us somewhere to at least hold them accountable to the court. And, that's work in progress. But on the school side of it, it's always, there can always be a school consequence that they can issue for the paraphernalia side of it. And there is also for having the marijuana and the nicotine vapes in the school, that there's a consequence for that also. But a lot of it, I think, it boils upon educating these students and educating the parents. I think the students, when I bring them in, they are no idea what the effects that this has on them. They don't know that it gives you popcorn in the lung and it's what it's doing to your lungs and everything else. They have no idea. It's just a cool thing to do. Everybody's doing it. I want to do it. I want to try it. I want to see what it is. And a lot of the parents I've talked to, they have no idea. They're kind of bedazzled that their kids are even using it. And some parents know that they're using it, but they don't want to deal with the underlying issue. So I think a lot of it's educating the students, educating the parents of the effects of it. Myself and Officer Hughes, we do a lot of educating with the kids as they're brought down and have it. But another thing is too is if it sticks, are the kids going to actually go through with it? And that's another thing that we've worked on too with the probation department. So now there is a diversion program. So if a student's caught first time for having the marijuana device under 21, they get through the diversion program, but they have to go to 2 educational classes to understand the effects and what it does to them. So they successfully complete that class, then that charge goes away. But if they do it a second time, then obviously the diversion program didn't work. So now they have to bring them through court. So, we're trying to educate and we're trying to do the right thing, but it's just a matter of getting them to understand the ramifications of it. And some of these kids, you talk to them, that's all they know, that's all they want to do. And, I'm not gonna lie, there's kids that have been caught 3-4 times and they just don't care.
So to follow up on that, in collaboration with Principal Dibble, we are looking at a drug and alcohol counselor coming on to support at the high school and to be an employee. So that is something we're looking to move forward with, to continue to support our youth, educate them, and understand the ramifications of their decisions.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, the next part of our study session is on the work plan. So I've got Ray. Welcome. Good to see you again.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to be back with you. Tonight, our primary objective is to work on a draft 3-year board governance plan. So that's the one pager. It's got the 3 columns in it with 3 years. The other document, the multi-page document, is as a resource for tonight. It's the complete work of the strategic planning process. So it's got the newly approved strategic roadmap from the school board, as well as your desired daily experiences for your students, families, and staff, the 3-year operational plan from the school district, your theory of actions, and then a vision card. So wanted to have that in front of you in case we need to refer something, but primarily we're gonna work off of the one pager with the 3 columns. Everybody have that in front of them? Okay. So officially, your strategic planning work is complete. And so what we do now in both this and the next session is just work with the school board, basically to identify anything that we can that helps pave the way for the implementation of the plan. The first thing is what we call a Board of Education 3-year governance plan. And in this document, the purpose is to identify the work of the school board over the next 3 years so that the strategic plan can continue to move forward. To orient you a little bit to this document, on the left-hand side, there are 5 key roles of school boards: the district policy, operational oversight, self-governance, superintendent relations, and public engagement. So way back when Dr. Sherry Allen was in front of you and she was talking about the education leadership system, the 5 roles of the school board, those are the same 5 roles. And then across the top, the years are designed to match with the district's operational plan. So the first column, 24-25, would be the same as the district's operational plan first year. So that's kind of the lay of the land on the document. What's populated in those areas, these are all just ideas that's culminated from other districts. So thinking that we're starting from a template that we can modify to make it Albert Lee's, and we could talk through some things. There's things here that you may not be doing, and there might be other items that you want to discuss as a board to add to the mix. So tonight, our work is to walk through this, make edits and changes. I'll take them back, and then when we come back for our final session with the board, we'll review it one more time, and then it's yours to monitor and update on an annual basis. So let me pause first. Are any questions or comments before we dive in? All right. So I thought we would just take these one section at a time. We'll start at the district policy row. Most districts have a board or a board policy committee. Is that true also here? And do you have a review schedule that you follow? Any specific schedule? Okay.
We have done a very substantive amount of work on policy, so I don't know if we need to do a third. That's my main impression. I think that might require some more assessment on our part, but we've gone through a mountain of policy for the last year and a half.
And the district that did this didn't that work? So they needed to be more aggressive. I've seen districts that will say we want to do a quarter a year, whatever schedule. There's a number of policies you have to review on an annual basis anyway, in statute. And of course, every legislative session gives you another opportunity to update policies. But the idea is that in this district, they wanted to make sure they touched a third of their policies, or every 3 years, everything got touched.
Do we need to be specific? Would it be out of place to state the policy manual review as needed or required or necessary?
This is yours.
Yeah. I like that verbiage better because we are pretty vigilant, is my impression, having been here a year. So I would advocate for that type of language.
Actually, 1/3 of the policy manual review
As needed? Okay.
Maybe to stay aligned to current statute, it just.
It wouldn't hurt to be specific there and mention some areas where it's obvious it is necessary.
Again, one of our client districts wanted to highlight that they do review the discipline policy every year, for different reasons, that they just wanted to articulate that. That is inherent in what you have to do under statute, so it's not required that you put that in here, but that's why that item is there for that sample. Yep, yes. Yep. That's a great question. So that item came out of a planning process in another district where they were looking at some technology implementation, and they didn't have a board policy around the technology fee. So this is an example where, as you look at your operational plan and what the administration is recommending over the next 3 years, are there any policy implications? Now, I did a review in preparation for this evening. I don't see that there's anything right now that we would put into this mix. But if something were to come up in a year or two, you would be planning ahead to say, in order for us to implement that initiative, we have to have a policy addressing these aspects of it. So I'm assuming you have a tech fee policy already in place, so we can cross it off, but that's the purpose of keeping that in there, is to show you that you can add an individual specific item in response to your operational planning.
I think that's important, this is not static, this does not static. We're gonna need to maybe add it underneath it.
If there's a policy that school board member notices might need to be revisited, should we talk about having a path to get that to a meeting, or maybe we do it, I don't know how that works, but.
That's due to the policy committee, so you talk to those that know the policy committee to bring up to revisit. Here in cabinet, we are going through each policy, level and looking at each policy as it relates to our division or downline. So that possible policy review is about to have that discussion.
So the board member wants a policy looked at, added to the schedule, they would just go to the policy committee and tell them to look at it, or ask them to look at it.
It's through the policy.
Any other comments on district policy? All right, hearing none. In the operational oversight, what you see populated is a pretty standard list of items that will come before you as a school board. Obviously, you do your annual budget. You'll be reviewing your strategic roadmap on an annual basis. There are decisions that you must make that are the statutes require. Some districts put in contract negotiations, so you see here that 24, 25, any contracts that are not on the odd year cycle, and then 25, 26 would be year one of the new teacher contract. Your long-term facility maintenance plan is an annual activity that the board reviews. 5-year projection, financial projection modeling is fairly standard. I don't know if that's here at Albert Lee. I'm seeing a nod, okay. Board Finance Committee, do you have a Board Finance Committee that meets regular? Okay, and then you get the World's Best Workforce Report. So in terms of the organizational oversight or operational oversight, these are kind of standardized items. Is there anything else that board members can think of that you do on a regular basis to monitor oversight data?
Curriculum committee, should that be listed as part of the operational oversight?
Are you have a board curriculum committee or a board rep on the curriculum committee?
Board rep.
Okay. So that's probably, you're just a representative, so it's not board work. Your board work that you would do would be when the recommendation comes before you to approve the budget.
I'm just looking at bigger plans that are part of operation, and I see budget and a strategic plan and facilities. I think we have a master technology plan, don't we, in some form, or am I mistaken on that?
I don't think it's a master
Okay,
technology plan versus what is our vision for technology.
Okay.
So we could certainly put that into our strategic plan, and that would be part of
Yeah.
monitoring the strategic
Yeah.
roadmap.
okay. Yeah, I would make that as a suggestion.
As far as the contract negotiations, it's a rare negotiation season that doesn't bridge both years. We rarely settle a contract in the year that they're scheduled to negotiate. It's a 2-year, overlap.
Yep.
It's not out of place to just have contract negotiations and do
Okay, without the sub, okay. I also noted, what's missing from this list, you also receive the audit and approve the financial statements. That's another activity of a school board, in terms of operational oversight. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I neglected to mention in my opening comments that tonight doesn't have to be an exhaustive exercise. The idea is just to get what's top of mind, if there's anything that pops into your mind. We recommend that this gets reviewed minimally annually. Typically in the summer, the board would review this. I personally recommend for the first year to do it quarterly. What I've seen is that board members are able to better recall what happened in the last 3 months than in the previous 12. And so you can look at agendas and you can, again, make revisions. The board does not approve this. You just use this as your plan document. So I forgot to mention that on the front end. So we don't have to get it perfect tonight. Anything else on operational oversight that comes to mind? All right, we'll move down to self-governance. And so self-governance is the category where we talk about how board members, how you govern yourself. So in the district policy is how you govern the school district, but in the self-governance, it's what do you do as board members? And so you'll see things like new member orientations, trainings. Some board members actually articulate when seats are going to be vacant. Some of our client districts call out that when they have new members, they have them participate in the overview of the same thing that Dr. Allen presented to you. Board structures and processes, that's something that we will do in our next session, but it's not a bad thing to revisit that, once every couple of years. Board work sessions, I know you have them already. This one that said spring 2023 was a denotation because they did not have board work sessions. So they were starting in 2023. And then does the school board have, or do you do self-evaluations?
We just completed the Minnesota School Board Association self-evaluation, and we have results that we can
Okay.
look to.
Do you do that on a regular basis?
I don't think so.
Okay.
The last time was maybe 2-3 years ago. Something like that.
Last year, and I think it was 2 years prior to that.
Okay.
Dave would probably have a better handle on that.
So you have a tool, and maybe it's once every couple years?
It's not annual.
Okay.
And the new member orientation, it is appropriate for 24, 25, would it not be also appropriate for 26, 27? We want new members going through, or an election
Yep. Okay, I'll add that.
So I would suggest like school board evaluation, maybe remove it from 24, 25 and put it under 26, 27.
Okay.
And that all of those items that relate to phased learning process would be on
To follow along with that. Okay.
and I don't know, well, it's a matter of record, we have 3 open seats after this year. Okay. So that is specific.
425, you have 3 seats? Okay.
I'm happy to see the new member orientation on there. I think that's a good idea. One thing I've heard other districts doing that we haven't is having a mentor program for new members. I think that would have been helpful for me when I first joined the board. And then one thought under self-governance, I wonder if it might make sense for us to look at our code of ethics and how that is interpreted and applied to ourselves. Sometimes I think that is, used in ways that might surprise us. So that might be worth looking at.
Gee, are you suggesting annually or targeted to a particular year, or?
I would say at least every 2 years, every time the board changes, you maybe
Okay.
get a fresh look
Okay.
at how that board wants to enforce this and interpret this.
Okay.
Well, I guess I'm thinking it'd be nice to have a collective discussion of how we want this to be interpreted and applied versus being taught this is how it's being interpreted and applied.
In other words, you'd have us better define what new member orientation is, what it consists of. And it's also a bit presumptuous that there is, in fact, a chisel in stone orientation.
I guess what I'm proposing on the code of ethics, I think is different than the orientation. I just think maybe not even right away, but once board members have been on for maybe a year or so, like perhaps right now, since Gary and Davey have been on for a year, it'd be good to have a collective discussion and go through that and see how we want the code of ethics to apply to ourselves when we're not all at the board table. That's my point.
Separate thing. I think it's a good idea. I think too, on a new member orientation, maybe some sort of, I don't want to lock us into a rigid structure, but at least some framework. I know I took the initiative to meet with a couple board members just to talk about how does this work. And I think I met with you and I met with finance, just so I could better act, but yeah. But I think some framework of some activity, perhaps a newly elected board member then could pick how they might like their orientation to look, and then get a big stack of policy and should be good to go.
Yeah, well, that was kind of my point, that it would be convenient, I think, if the board would meet, likely with the superintendent, and define what that orientation looks like. I don't think it should be a mandate by either the superintendent or the board for a collaborative process.
Anything else that you currently do or that you'd like to propose as a potential future item? All right, we'll drop down to superintendent relations. Annual evaluation is pretty standard and listed in there. One district, the superintendent has monthly board meetings, so, monthly meetings with, between the superintendent and board members. Could write that a little bit clearer. I don't know if that's a practice that happens at Albert Lee, or if you have infrequent conversations, but that's one of the connections. And then you'll see in year 2 and 3, conversation around contracts and contract negotiations. Wasn't sure when Superintendent Wagner's, when that occurs for you, but they did note that we've got that coming up in future years. When is that for you? That will be in line to this? Okay. Okay.
Typically prior to the second meeting of the month, which is more of a business meeting, but it's not out of line for, at the discretion of the chair and the superintendent to meet anytime,
Mhm.
especially before the 2 meetings, but maybe not necessarily the first meeting, certainly the second one.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's appropriate to put board chair or designated board member, perhaps.
I think it'd be nice to meet every so often with the superintendent. Monthly might be a lot of meetings for you with all of us, but maybe quarterly or something like that.
Any board member? I think any board member can meet with the superintendent anytime they want, but these are scheduled ones. But no, by all means, I'm sure Ron would welcome the presence of any of us in his office.
And with Director Nelson, we need to meet with chair and vice chair, so that's something that we can move forward with as well. So it'd be Director Nelson and the board, whatever they define it.
The only other thing that,
thanks.
oh, go ahead.
Thanks, Ron. I was gonna add that right now, we currently are doing that and as needed. So as board members feel the need, I think Ron's very available, but I think for guidance in this document, it's that they do happen 1 to 2 times a month is a fair statement. Dave, you're muted. Can you unmute?
Well, we'll see if he comes in, the only other thing that I have seen in some districts in this category is that if the board and superintendent wanted to, if they're not happy with their evaluation instrument, that they wanted to work on refining and revising. I don't know if that's something that's needed for Albert Lee, or if everybody's comfortable with the instrument that's being used. Okay. Okay.
So Dave cannot unmute for some reason, so he just sent me that everyone should schedule a time with Ron as needed, so kind of like what I said, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, last category, public engagement. So these are all just examples, again, from other districts. A couple of boards were talking about visibility, so they wanted to document that they're gonna attend events. I've been here enough to know that several of you already do that. You know, whether or not you want it on your document, it's up to you. One group wanted to have an open mic where they could engage with admin and the school board. Strategic public engagement forums around large district initiatives. So again, not sure if you have anything coming up. I'm working with one district that they're redoing all their elementary boundaries. So they're having lots of opportunity for engagement. And then board visits to schools. So these are, again, examples of what other boards have wanted or that they do. One last bullet in year 2 and 3, you'll see public awareness of board work. This has actually become very, I shouldn't want to say very popular, it's become more and more popular where local boards are customizing communication to their public around what is a role of a board member and what is the purpose of the school board. Anywhere from just communication flyers. Some districts have, there's a company that's actually doing some videos they customize to local school districts. But increasing that public awareness of board work is something that several boards that I work with have committed to try to share with the public what your role is. So, again, you can accept any of these, we can delete them all, we can, whatever Albert Lee does for their engagement. Or if you know of something coming up, that you have a big initiative that you're gonna wanna engage your public.
One item that jumps out to me is a practice that we have done in the past, with regularly scheduled board meetings at various buildings, not always in this venue, but at the high school, at Almason. We've done that, and actually, as I recall, it wasn't necessarily at a school. It could be in a community. Allendale, community building. I think we've been there, we've been to Hayward,
Clark's Grove.
Clark's Grove, that's right.
Oh, I like that idea. I wouldn't mind having visits to schools. I mean, I'm familiar with over half, but I think some sort of a regular schedule, maybe not all of us together, because it's kind of like a mob going through and don't want to be disruptive, but I think that would be very helpful for all of us to be there.
Yeah, love to do that.
I think when it comes to the open mic part, Ray, those were really reserved for just what you talked about, like big initiatives. So when we did the changing the boundaries a few years ago, we had a listening session at that school that was most affected, and so I think that's appropriate. I think we give opportunity at our meetings for open forum. So I think both of those would be adequate, and we do that.
I would agree with that.
I like the idea too in that second and third year to give kind of the, a flyer or some kind of video, like you said, about, getting to know your board members and what kind of, what's their role and the importance of their piece of the school district puzzle.
One thought that just came to mind was, I don't know if this would make sense or not, but before we did as we were doing our superintendent search, there was a big public survey that went out, and I was able to read through those comments, and that was really interesting, really helpful to get an idea of what the public valued and was looking for just across the board. And you got some nasty comments in there, but most of it was really thoughtful and really helpful, and I just wonder if something like that on a regular basis would be useful, just every year or a couple years, just give people the opportunity to share a few sentences of what they're thinking about.
There's really two practices for that. There's, some districts will do an annual survey, but it's a census-based. So they just provide a link and anybody can respond. And then that's the data you have. There are other districts that will do a more structured survey where they will engage a company that will provide a stratified random sample of people that they'll call, they'll ask questions. The difference is that when you do the sample, you have a statistically significant result. That however many people if they call 400 people, they're gonna tell you that would be the result of the school district. A census survey is only good statistically significant if you get over 50%. So if you get a 25% response rate, it's information, but it may not be directive. And so one's low cost and one has a cost attached to it, obviously. But I can just document some sort of survey. You can talk at a future date what that might look like for you. And Neil, before I leave, I want to make sure so I have regularly scheduled board meetings at district and community facilities. Is that what you, okay, thank you. Anything else on the top of your minds that you would want to think about over the next 3 years, at least as you sit tonight? After the appropriate wait time, it looks like there's no more to respond to. Again, no commitments on anything tonight. I will take this back. I'll revise the draft. I'll bring it to you at our next session. We'll start with this. And then I'll hand it off to you. And as a board, you can decide how frequently you want to engage with it. But it's a tool that the board can use to track your work over the next 3 years. And as Superintendent Wagner brings operational plan updates, there may be things that you think, we got to focus on that in 24, 25, or 25, 26. And you have a document that you can follow.
Okay.
Acceptable
Yeah, very good.
next steps?
Thank you, Ray.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
You're welcome.
Have we exhausted our agenda?
One additional comment to Paul. Over the weekend, there was Corey Goodnature wrestling tournament, youth wrestling tournament. Paul was in charge of it. He did a great job. Nearly 200 youth participated. But one of the comments he made to the parents was that, and all the high school wrestlers were the referees in the match. So Paul made the comment, if you got a problem with a call, to the parents, if you got a problem with a call, don't talk to the high school kid. Come and talk to me, I'll be glad to talk to you. So I thought that was a great comment on your part to protect the high school kids, so thank you.
No, good, good. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second that. Very good. We are adjourned.